I'm Dean Boss, retired MSU Extension educator, and I'm here today with Monica Jean, MSU Extension Field Crops educator, covering the Saginaw Bay region. We will be discussing maintenance and management methods for CREP practices. Please refer to these sections on the specification sheet for additional details specific to each practice, in particular, the notes section. These can include heights, species, and allowable maintenance timeframes.
We're going to go ahead and dive right into maintenance. Maintenance can be broken down into two main categories of mowing and spot spraying. Mowing typically occurs before or after the establishment of the practice. Here you can see mowing occurring out at the Kellogg Biological Station in an established prairie strip using a flail mower. There's other kinds of mowing equipment as well, and so just work with that land manager to figure out what equipment they have and what specifications need to be accomplished, checking back to the specification sheet. For example, if mowing after establishment, CP5A has a designation of August 1st to May 1st in the notes section on the specification sheet. The second method we can use is spot spraying. There are also several different parameters for when, how, and the need to get approval from the FSA County Committee for spot spraying for most of the practices. Again, please take a look at your specification sheet to know what kind of approval or parameters need to be met in order to use spot spraying. When using a herbicide, restricted use pesticides can only be applied by someone with a license in the state of Michigan. We'll now be transitioning to CREP management techniques, which includes prescribed burn taught by prescribed burn professionals.
Hi, I'm Andy Vanderyacht. I am an academic specialist in the forestry department at Michigan State University, where I teach and do research. And I'm here with Michelle.
I'm Michelle Richards with Michigan Army National Guard. I work at Fort Custer Training Center, and I'm a prescribed fire burn boss.
Yeah, and we're here to talk a little bit today about the use of fire and prescribed fire in the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, CREP. And so, the first thing, we just completed a prescribed fire. You can see it in the background here, and we'll just talk a little bit about why fire. What are the benefits? Like, what do we use it for?
Fire is a fabulous tool for restoring the ecology of habitats that were once abundant in Michigan.
Fire was historically this force that would have maintained prairies, savannas, these open communities that the CREP program is largely trying to shift agriculture back into. So I guess, what are the specific objectives, the specific things that fire is then accomplishing to ensure that those communities that we've then restored through seeding and planting of agricultural lands are maintained? Right. What is fire doing?
So if you put prairie seed down on barren landscape and you don't burn it, you're going to end up with the same problem that you had before. Woody encroachment, invasive species, and it's a fine-tuned sword about how we do the invasive species management, but generally fire is effective against invasives. So if you do all that work to do that Conservation Reserve enhancement, and if you don't put fire on the ground, you're going to lose the seed and the work that you've done. So
fire doesn't necessarily need to be used to accomplish some of those things. So we have other choices and stuff. So I guess when someone's considering using fire to accomplish this, what are the kinds of things that they can think about?
Fire is an inherently risky practice. You are going to put smoke up in the air. You could potentially light things on fire that you don't want to light on fire. So if you're in a sensitive area, or you've got neighbors who are going to be unfriendly, or you have a fire department who is, not cooperative in letting you do those burns on your lands, then you might consider a different tool. But if you have a good boundary and you have the capacity to put fire on the ground, you've got some suppression tools at your disposal, even if it's just a tank on the back end of your tractor that you triple rinse to get the pesticide out before you go and put water on your prairie that
Good point.
that you're about to apply it to. Fire is a great tool if you've got your I's dotted and T's crossed. All of our Michigan species evolved in relationship with fire, animals and plants. So it's the best tool to use. If you can't use it, then again, mowing or cut and treat, or whatever it takes to keep that stuff back. But fire's your ace in the hole.
Now, maybe we've gotten to the point where fire is the best option for this. Like, what's that process look like, how involved it is, and maybe where could the average landowner go to get resources to carry that management out?
If you're in the southern half of the Lower Peninsula, you're going to be working with your local fire department. If you're in the northern half of the Lower Peninsula or the Upper Peninsula, you're going to need to work with MDNR to get a permit. It's a good idea, if you have neighbors that you have concerns about, to contact them and sit down and talk with them about what you're about to do, so that they have an understanding, and that generally people will be friendly to it if they have warning and they know what's going on. So you need to make a plan of some sort. There are some templates online for both a complicated agency style burn plan as well as less complicated plans that you can write as a person who doesn't need to worry about all the things that an agency person would need to think about. But you want to think about what weather you would burn within. You want to think about your boundaries. You want to think about suppression resources. How are you going to put out what you lit if it goes somewhere where you don't want it to go, or keep it in the box, as you said. And you need to think about mop up. And one of the things that I think we don't touch so much as private citizens when we're thinking about burning is contingency planning. So thinking all of the possible things that could happen on your burn and everything that could go wrong, and then planning for everything that could go wrong. So if something does go wrong, in your panic brain, you have a thing to touch and go, okay, my contingency plan was called the Barry County Fire Department. Great, I'll call them if it goes awry. Those are the basic components of a burn plan. And again, I encourage people to, if you're considering this, you can touch base with the Michigan Prescribed Fire Council. We've got resources on our website. Any of the members of the council would be happy to at least direct you to places for information. Your burn plan, no matter how you write it, is the document that if you get taken to court, that's what they're going to look at.
Just to reiterate, the firecouncil.org is this collaboration of resources made by the Fire Council, which is just this ad hoc group of a bunch of people who know about fire. And then I would say that, making sure that you explore that network and get those connections, and maybe hire a consultant the first time, and do it and observe until you get some comfort level with all of the steps and everything that goes into putting that management on the ground.
We have a list of private contractor resources on the Fire Council website as well. Those people are good. It's good to hire one out for sure, so that you get a sense of how it works. And we also offer some trainings to landowners and anybody in the public that gives you a basic sense of fire and the safety equipment and all that good stuff that we use. So
yeah.
Disking is another operation that can be used to manage your practice. Disking is allowed for CP1, CP2, CP21, CP23/23A, and CP26. Disking must occur between August 1 and May 1. Disking opens up the canopy and exposes soil, letting in light and moisture, which allows seeds in the seed bank to germinate and improve your practice stand. Strip spraying is another operation that can be used to manage your conservation practice. Strip spraying is allowed for CP1, CP2, CP21, CP23/23A, and CP26. Strip spraying must occur between August 1 and May 1 and must be accomplished with a grass-specific herbicide. Restricted use pesticides can only be applied by someone with a license in the state of Michigan. Interseeding additional plants is another option you can use for managing your conservation practice. Interseeding of legumes or wildflowers can be used for CP1, CP21, CP23/23A, and CP26. Note that CP2 is the exception in that only wildflowers can be interseeded in CP2. Interseeding can be accomplished using a no-till drill or broadcast seeding with some light incorporation. Interseeding must occur between August 1 and May 1.
CREP management technique, tree pruning and thinning, is a requirement for practices CP 5A, 22, 23, and 23A. As you can see here, here's a windbreak that needs some management, which would be including chopping off the limbs that are dead or falling off, keeping that stand thinned correctly and still functional for the windbreak. You're going to need to talk to your landowners to make sure that they're properly maintaining their tree stands.